Hello again, everybody. It's me, Marcus, and I review stuff. Today, I'm reviewing the song Still Ill by The Smiths. So I've been getting a lot of requests for this song, so I'm assuming it's one of their better ones. Not that they have really any bad songs at this point, but really high hopes for this one, considering how many requests I've gotten. So, as I mentioned, this is a request, so if you would like to request something, please leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get to it. So, sorry to keep you waiting for so long, but we're finally back to it. This is Still Ill, The Smiths. I really enjoy what I've heard from The Smiths. Recently, I've also listened to Morrissey's, one of Morrissey's solo songs, and I also like that. So it seems like, I'm really getting the feel for this band, and really starting to come around and enjoy them a lot more than I think I originally did. So kudos to them, having a very deep and interesting discography where if I don't like one song, I will eventually kind of come across something that I really do like. So again, mad props to them. But I'll stop talking and rambling on. Let's listen. This is, again, Still Ill, The Smiths. And here we go.
Today that life is simply taking and not giving. England is mine, it owes me a living. But ask me why and I'll spit in your eye. Oh, ask me why and I'll spit in your eye. But we cannot cling to the old dreams anymore. No, we cannot cling to those dreams. Does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? I don't know. Under the iron bridge we kissed, and although I ended up with sore lips, it just wasn't like the old days anymore. No, it wasn't like those days. Am I still ill? Oh, am I still ill? Does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? I don't know. Ask me why and I'll die. Oh, ask me why and I'll die. And if you must go to work tomorrow, well, if I were you, I wouldn't bother. For there are brighter sides to life, and I should know because I've seen them, but not very often. Under the iron bridge we kissed, and although I ended up with sore lips, it just wasn't like the old days anymore. No, it wasn't like those days. Am I still ill? Oh, am I still
That one was good. I like that one a lot. It was a lot more, I feel like, up-tempo than I think I've come to expect from the Smiths, but it really worked here. One thing I really like about the Smiths, and actually one thing I love about the Smiths, is I've always loved their lyricism. No matter what I have to say about the song as a whole, they've always blown me away with their lyrical ability. So I gotta say, usually it takes me more than one listen to really grasp the lyricism and be able to talk about it and understand it in a meaningful way. So I'm always glad, personally, I'm glad that I take the time to sit and talk about the lyrics and read over them again, because usually it does take me that second read through, and sometimes even more than that, to really grasp the message. And a lot of you in the Smiths fan base have not been shy about telling me where I'm wrong and how I totally missed the message and blah blah blah, and I do apologize for that, but I am doing the best that I can. I think they do have a very interesting way of writing, and one that, like, it's like I understand why people really appreciate this band so much, especially people who were growing up in the time where they kind of reached their prominence here, because so many of their messages, I feel like, speak to this sort of idea of disenfranchised youth, that I can see why they were so influential to so many. With that being said, they're very skilled about not just putting everything out there blatantly. They really do a great job of writing lyrics that sort of make you think and say, okay, what's the deeper message behind all this? So again, I've always appreciated them for that, because I'm a self-proclaimed lyrics guy. I love to look at lyrics. I love to think about lyrics. I love lyrical music. So for me, I've really enjoyed listening to the Smiths for that specific reason. So anyway, let's break it down like we always do. Let's start with the lyrics as we normally do. Let's talk about each part. So I do have a little bit of information here. It says, Still Ill is a 1984 track by the Smiths, composed by lead singer Morrissey and guitarist Marr. The track premiered on the eponymous debut album, The Smiths. Again, one of the best albums that I think I've probably ever heard. There are so many songs that you guys have been requesting on here that I've listened to at this point that have absolutely blown me away. I've listened to Reel Around the Fountain, Pretty Girls Make Graves, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, This Charming Man, Still Ill, and Suffer Little Children. All those songs I like, and which is saying a lot. I mean, the fact that I've liked all those songs and there's still more, and I'm pretty sure many of you want me to listen to the rest of those. Like, yeah, man, this to me is probably one of the best albums I think I've ever heard, just as far as the amount of quality songs on the album. So anyway, that was a bit of a sidebar. The song is primarily a lament about the passage of time, both in the context of individuals and of greater society, and a longing for a past that will never return. I kind of got that a little bit from the lyrics, but I wasn't sure if I was reading that correctly. As with many Smith songs, some interpret the song as being a reference to closet homosexuality. And it's very interesting. Some of you in the comments have been kind of telling me, don't take the Smith song so literally. Because I guess for me, I look at it, I'm like, okay, who is, I guess, the protagonist in this song? Or, there are many ways to read a lot of their songs as being adjacent to homosexuality. But some people tell me that's maybe not the case, that a lot of their songs are based off of books or movies or other things that have influenced them. So, not really sure where to take this one here, but it seems to me, so somebody, I think in the comments, mentioned that Morrissey has kind of become a bitter kind of asshole, and so I was like, oh, really? I decided to look up a little bit more about Morrissey and see that he's super passionate nowadays about animal rights, but like to the point, like PETA level animals of rights, you know what I mean? But like, and he's denied, I think, being gay many times. So I wonder whose perspective he's speaking from. I wonder if he just has this sort of protagonist in his mind, or if maybe it's someone he knows, or maybe he just kind of puts himself in those shoes to sort of think about what it's like. So a lot of interesting stuff happening with the Smiths lyrics, and again, that's why I beg y'all's patience, just because as someone who didn't grow up with the Smiths and who has really only discovered them because of my channel within the last year, there's a whole lot of context that I don't have about these songs. So I do the best that I can analyzing the lyrics. I guess I keep like defending myself. I guess I'm just feeling very attacked by the Smiths fans recently. But whatever. I still enjoy the music, so that's all that matters. Anyway, verse 1. I decree today that life is simply taking and not giving. England is mine, it owes me a living. But ask me why, and I'll spit in your eye. Oh, ask me why, and I'll spit in your eye. But we cannot cling to the old dreams anymore. We cannot cling to those dreams. This part was very interesting to me, because I was like, I wonder what specifically he's talking about here, right? He says, I decree today that life is simply taking and not giving. So I wonder if this is maybe some sort of protagonist who is sort of waking up to the world and maybe feeling that it is a dark place where people, again, only want to take. And so if you're going to survive in this kind of world, you have to just take and take, right? And so then he says, England is mine, it owes me a living, which I think is like, I have mixed feelings about that line, because I'm like, yeah, your country, your government, whatever, should do its job to make sure that everyone has a safe, healthy living, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's a very literal interpretation. But also it makes me wonder, like, why does he feel, I guess, that England is his and that it owes him a living? I think it's a very interesting idea here. But ask me why and I'll spit in your eye. And again, that to me is also very interesting. Like, okay, because I just asked, like, hey, like, why does he feel that? Well, is he going to spit in my eye? I guess he doesn't want to be challenged on his belief. But here we kind of get where that piece of information was speaking to. He says, we cannot cling to the old dreams anymore. No, we cannot cling to these dreams. Does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? I don't know. That's a very interesting line, because, I think just based on the name of the song, still ill being like sick. And again, this might be me taking it too literally, but, you always hear things like, oh, mind over matter and blah, 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 blah. And in some cases, like when your mindset is right, you can power yourself through a whole lot of different things. But at many times, your body can only go so long. And so in many cases, it does rule the mind, So it's very interesting kind of thing there. But here it says that Morrissey is questioning whether sexuality is a choice. Is our sexuality defined by what our body naturally does, or do we have control over our sexual urges? Matza doesn't know, neither do scientists. I would argue that scientists have a somewhat better understanding of it, based on the research that I've seen. But this could have been written a few years ago at this point. But yeah, does the body rule the mind? It's very interesting that people do see this as sort of a perhaps someone struggling with homosexuality, because so far, like, if without that tidbit of information, I don't know if I would necessarily be reading it that way, But I guess as I continue to read, maybe that will become a little bit more clear. Under the iron bridge we kissed, and although I ended up with sore lips, it just wasn't like the old days anymore. No, it wasn't like those days. Am I still ill? Am I still ill? Oh. Yeah, and again, I'm not too sure what he's talking about here. To me, under the iron bridge we kissed, and although I ended up with sore lips, like, they kissed for a really long time, and they had a great time, I guess, presumably, but it just wasn't like the old days anymore. No, it wasn't like those days. I've got I had a similar feeling recently, because I don't remember what I was eating. This is so stupid, but I don't remember what I was eating. But I remember eating something for only the second time ever. I was eating some sort of dish, or some sort of, it was like a takeout from somewhere. And I was like, it was good, but I was like, man, this definitely isn't as good as the first time I ever ate it. And I remember turning to my wife and being like, don't you ever wish you could go back in time and just like eat your favorite dish for the first time again? And she was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I was like, yeah, that's how I feel about this dish. Like, it's good, but I just remember the first time I ate it being just so amazing and incredible. And I was like, oh, this is my new favorite dish or whatever, right? And I would never say that about her cooking, don't get me wrong. It was definitely like takeout, It was definitely something takeout, but I was just like, yeah, and there's a lot of things like that. I mean, some of you have told me like, oh man, you're so lucky that you're getting to experience this music for the first time ever. What I wouldn't give to go back and experience this song again for the first time ever, and re-experience that way that it made me feel. That's kind of how I feel here. It's like, yeah, kissing is fine at this point, but it's nothing like that first time that we kiss and just the magic that happened there. So I definitely get that idea that it's sort of reminiscent on the past, and sort of longing for that return, longing for that first time ever where it was just so sweet and enjoyable. But the part that the meaning kind of breaks down for me is where he says, am I still ill? And again, this is the part where a lot of people have interpreted it as being the idea of homosexuality, because from decades, homosexuality was considered, a disease or an illness, right? So I think that's where a lot of people kind of get this idea. And so it makes me wonder, was he maybe the protagonist in the story? Was the protagonist maybe like making out with a woman and thought, okay, like, am I straight now or am I still ill? You know what I mean? But I don't know. I really don't know. Again, without that kind of idea that people have said, oh, maybe it's about being homosexual. Like, I don't read it as that without that bit of information, So it's very interesting. Does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? I don't know. Ask me why and I'll die. Oh, ask me why and I'll die. And if you must go to work tomorrow, well, if I were you, I wouldn't bother, for there are brighter sides to life. And I should know because I've seen them, but not very often. Wow, that's a very deep line. There's always at least like one part of a Smith song where I'm just like, wow, that's so incredibly deep or beautiful or what have you. Again, this is why I love their lyricism so much. But yeah, that line really works for me, and he's correct. There are so many better things to life than just work. And again, a very unfortunate part of living in America is that your life is so closely tied to your work that it is hard. And even like dream jobs at the end of the day are still jobs, and it's not your life. There's a great song by the Middle Kids. Wow, what is the name of the song? Call Me Snowflake, I think, where at the end she's like, know your worth, it is not your work. And I'm like, preach, that is absolutely correct. Anyway, under the iron bridge we kissed, and although I ended up with sore lips, it just wasn't like the old days anymore. No, it wasn't like those days. Am I still ill? Oh, am I still ill? Oh. I liked it. Again, I think the lyrics here, and they do a great job of lyricism where it's like you don't really know the full meaning behind it. And so a lot of it is up to interpretation. To me, a lot of my favorite music is like that, where the artist doesn't like hammer you over the head with the message. They kind of put their idea out, they put their words out, and it's up to you to sort of interpret it and figure out the meaning of it for yourself, which I really like. Again, as a lyrics guy, I love just reading lyrics and thinking about what they mean and thinking about how they apply to me or to the world or to society. So even with my silly food analogy, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get that longing for the past and wanting to return. Hell, when I hear like a song from the 2000s, like, oh man, that like takes me back, and it almost makes me long for those days, when in reality those days weren't always that great. So it's like, I kind of get the song. So for me, lyrically, just like almost every single Smith songs, I got to give it 2 thumbs up. As far as the instrumentation goes, as I mentioned, this one was, again, to me, a little bit more up-tempo than a lot of other Smith songs. But, I really liked it. Morrissey sounds great as always. I think I've really become accustomed to his voice, and I just really love his singing style. There's something about it that just almost puts me in a trance, you know what I mean? I'm sure many of you who are Smiths fans know what I mean. I think Johnny Marr is brilliant on the guitar as always. I just love saying Johnny Marr on guitar just because it rhymes. I know it's stupid, but love it, and I love his guitar work here. The drums actually really surprised me. A lot of really cool drum fills throughout. Really kept, again, the song a little bit more up-tempo, and then, of course, the bass really helped keep that as well. So overall, a really well-composed song. Really like the energy behind it, like I said, and yeah, it was a good listen. I would listen to this song again just for the instrumentation. To me, it was that strong. It was that much of an enjoyable listen. So there, I also give it 2 thumbs up. And then as far as the replay value goes, I've added so many of these Smith songs to my playlist. I do enjoy listening to them from time to time. And again, a big part of that for me is the lyricism. But, I've really come to appreciate Johnny Marr on the guitar. I said that I feel like he's perhaps underrated in many ways, because typically when I hear discussions about great guitarists, I don't think I've ever heard his name come up. A lot of you tell me, in England he's not underrated. People really recognize his status there, but for me, as someone who has been listening to guitar-based music for so long, and to really not ever recognize or hear his name, I was like, wow, to me it's been shocking, because he doesn't do anything like crazy guitar solos or anything like that, but the guitar that he does play is just very smooth and easy to listen to. So with that said, I think the replay value here for me is very high. I give it 2 big thumbs up. Very much enjoyed this one. So overall, really liked it. Thank you so much for the many people who requested this one. I had a great time listening to it, and you guys were absolutely right. This was a must listen. So as always, if you would like to request something as well, please leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get to it. If you enjoyed the music, as always, go support the artist. Go listen to the music wherever you can. One place you can definitely find plenty of Smiths at this point is in my Spotify playlist. It's in the description below. It has every single song that I've listened to so far on my channel. And if you want to support me, just all the normal stuff you do on YouTube. Like and subscribe and comment. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.